And we're live back at it another week. Mr. Adam, how you doing, man?
Good, brother. Doing real well. PowerFall project back at it, right?
Yep, recording number 4, officially episode number 3. I've been really looking forward to this all day long, actually all week long, really.
Dude, it is something to look forward to. It's fun. I get anxious about it. I'm like, let's just do it right now. Let's do it now. I don't want to wait another week. It's a lot of fun for me too.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick that jumped into gear. So if the people out there listening, if there's anyone listening, if you're thinking about doing a podcast with your best friend, do so, man. It's fun. It gives you something to look forward to. You learn. I've learned more about you, I think, in these last couple of weeks than I have in the
Yeah,
couple of years I've known you. So
for sure, for sure. Well, before we get things kicked off, dude, what are you sipping on?
I am still working on that Tito's vodka, but I'm
Oh,
showing the camera here. I'm drinking out of my favorite NASCAR mug. It's a coffee mug. I'm keeping it classy here. It's
yeah.
vodka on the rocks in NASCAR.
Okay, so is the NASCAR mug, because I can't see it, is it just NASCAR branding or is there somebody and a number on there?
Yeah, it's a white mug. It's got NASCAR written on it. A little kind of bad animation of a car, but it's one of my favorite mugs because it's been around in my life for about 15 years. I can't remember where I got it. I think it was a Christmas present.
Maybe a NASCAR event?
Um, No, I don't think I ever got it at a NASCAR event. I think it was a Christmas present with stocking stuffer or something like that. But
Sure. That's
I
cool.
just like it because we grew up a little bit redneck, a little bit hillbilly,
You're always
back country.
racing through life, brother. You're always
Oh,
racing
buddy,
through life.
full throttle, wide open.
Uh,
What do you got on? What are you
I
working on?
got, dude, another scotch. It's yeah, I think it's just like a daily drinker. 12-year-old Doers, I think. Yeah, man.
Okay, yeah, right on.
So yeah, I got a little melt water in there. 'Cause I like it a little bit chilled.
Likewise, I put a lot of ice in mine. I like a little melt in my vodka. There, I'm not a huge vodka guy, but it's nice.
Yeah, man.
Um, it's been a whirlwind of a week. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so we just drove up from LA to the Pacific Northwest to the Seattle Puget Sound area, doing some family stuff, trying to see some people. My mom's having a surgery. My wife's one of her best friends had a baby shower, but all this is in COVID, so we're kind of doing it through Windows and all that kind of stuff, and trying to see people. I got a little story that I got to tell you about yesterday's little adventure that goes into my topic. That'll be kind of fun. But yeah, man, did a 2-day, one overnight stretch from LA to the Pacific Northwest, about 16 hours of driving total. Just kind of hit cruise control and let it go, man.
You made pretty good time though. 16.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, we didn't leave as early as I would have liked, as probably a lot of the men audience can attest to, when there's a set time and wife likes to get ready and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But
No, marriage is compromise, man.
so we got out of the door a little bit later than I would have liked to, but then we made up really good time and cruised and just quick little stops and went to LA to Medford in the first night. It's Southern Oregon
Oh yeah,
city.
that you made good progress on the first day there. I haven't done that drive many times. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, yeah. So we whipped up there, and it was pretty cool. There was a hotel. Medford, downtown Medford, has come down a little bit as far as status, but it still holds its charm. And what was kind of
Where'd you
cool.
stay at? I know Medford pretty well. Where'd you stay?
Okay, so we were downtown, and it's like the historical downtown, and we're driving through. It's like gun shops, liquor stores, pawn shops, and we're just like, okay, where are we staying?
Sounds like Vegas, actually.
Yeah, right. Well, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it was like really beautifully restored, and it looked like it was quite the place in the 60s. Like the whole setting looked like when I stepped into the lobby, it was like on the set of Mad Men. Like
Mm.
the lounge was cool. It had those old like sunken like wraparound chairs with the wheels on it. Bar was like waist level. It was a cool just kind of ambiance. I had this little glimpse of in the movie The Shining when he's at the Overlook Hotel, and it's just that little bit dated but nice, classy look. And so that was kind of fun. So we had that experience, and the rooms were nothing special, but we were just staying there for a quick night and then get back on the road.
I went to the lodge not too long ago in Oregon where they filmed part of that.
Oh, right, up at, the Timberland
Is it
Lodge, I
Mount
believe,
Hood?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
on Mount
Mount
Hood, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
trippy being up there.
Yeah, you can
It's
actually
during the
see it from some of the
summertime.
slopes. You can when you take up the I snowboard up there, and you take the chair up there, and one of the chairs on the far west side, I believe, then you can see into the parking lot and see the top of the hotel or the
Right.
lodge, yeah.
Good stuff. So second day, you made it no problem, and you guys are staying with your wife's sister.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Cool.
so trying to stay as distant as possible and socially responsible, but,
Well,
it's still
good
try to
good
see
job on the
people and
yeah, good job on the commitment bringing the podcast gear with you.
yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm up here in the spare bedroom, got it all set up, but it sounds so far sounds like we're doing pretty well. So
Did the family look at you kind of weird when you say I got to disappear for an hour to podcast?
yeah, well, the funny thing is, I it was my night to make dinner, and so I'm like hustling through making dinner, got it all set, put it in the oven under warm, and I'm like, all right, see you guys later. Hope you enjoy it. And I bounced up here.
What was on the menu there, sir?
Did taco night, so pretty easy. You know what? All of it's pretty easy. I just did some ground beef and the taco mix, and then everything else is just cold mix that you can throw in. But what I do a little special is I make my own homemade guac, and I do some corn with some parmesan. So
I can
that took
attest.
a
That
little
is
bit of
that is
work. So
legendary.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
I can
bad.
attest. That's legendary.
So what about you,
Um,
man? How's your week? It's been pretty wild for you.
yeah, so this is pretty much our Friday right now because we are grinding all weekend long. We had a heck of a Saturday. We filmed Saturday morning early.
Hmm.
We had a baby shower for some dear friends of ours here in Vegas.
Hmm.
And then we had a birthday party that we more or less hosted here at our pool on Saturday night. So it was just nonstop. I barely had enough time for like an 8-minute nap in between the run in.
Yeah,
We both, when we were done, we hit the pillow around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and we just passed out. I don't even know if we said goodnight to each other.
yeah.
And then Sunday, man, it's my one day that I get to go out and play ultimate frisbee.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And I snapped awake, 6:45, and went out there and did it. And dude, I love it, man. It's about a 25-minute drive for me to do it, so it's a little bit of commitment. You got to get up
Yeah,
early, pack the cooler, the whole deal. But I'm loving the athletic nature of it.
yeah,
It's definitely a lot more toned down than what we're used to being kids and whatnot. But it's safe. You're playing with people that respect you. They're not gonna check you. You're not gonna
right.
get put on the ground. But there's still some bumping and grinding a little bit there. Not bumping
Yeah.
and grinding, but there's still some bumping and rubbing there.
Yeah.
A lot of sprinting, which I like because there's nothing like being chased or chasing someone to hit that extra little percent of effort. You can do
Yeah.
sprints in the gym, but when you're trying not to get beat by your opponent, because you possibly could give up a touchdown, if you get beat.
Right,
It,
right, it's that competitive juices flowing
yeah,
for
man.
sure. That's
So it's
good.
it's a little nostalgic for me too, kind of talking about what I did last week, but I like it, man. It's a good group of people. So there's in the frisbee world, there's young kids that play, and I say young kids are in late teens, and then there's all the way up into the 40s and 50s because
Mhm.
as you get older, you might slow down a little bit, but you've had all those years of throwing experience. And I don't know if you know this, there's probably 13, 14 different ways to throw a frisbee. And these guys can throw it just like Tiger Woods can put a golf ball on the green. They can laser that thing in there like Tom Brady.
Dude, that part is nuts because I mean, there's 2 ways that I throw a Frisbee is terrible and then not so terrible. So, the fact that there's 13 ways, like, just technique-wise, I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm not that great to be honest with you, and I'm good at running though, so I usually can just sprint downfield, try to get open, and then if I play my cards right, there's a frisbee waiting right there for me. So
Oh,
it's
man,
fun,
that's
man. It's
cool.
gratifying.
That
So this
is
is our kind of our
cool.
Friday today. We spent all day filming again today, and then like I said, I was prepping for this in my head. And I know we had talked about our top 5 athletes that we're going to bring to the table today, and that was going back and
Yeah,
forth in my head all day long, all weekend long because my
no
order
doubt.
kind of shifted a little bit. We'll kind of get into that there. But
Yeah,
do you want to recap kind of what the list was about?
Yeah, okay. So what we teased up last week was top 5 athletes that had impact on your life. Like we could go, round and round in circles on top athletes, the best basketball player. I mean, there's always these debates and all that kind of stuff. But this one I really really liked because this is the top athletes that had impact on my life, and you have your list that they had impact on your life, and they could be the exact same, they could be completely different because our lives are different. So
Yeah,
that's the way that I looked at it.
that's what I really enjoyed about last week too is how different our lists were, and that's we'll kind of get into it later about how that's kind of bonded us a little bit about the differences. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm super happy that we didn't make it another discussion of LeBron or Kobe or who's the best or
Right.
Jordan.
Right.
Because
Right.
if I got stuck in another one of those conversations, yeah, I'd just slip my wrist right now.
All right. Well, and you know what? I think I probably have a few. I think our lists are going to be pretty different.
I think
But
so too. I really do. Yeah.
I went probably a little bit more conventional, but I still think they're going to be different. So I'm excited for it. So, dude, should we just jump in?
Yeah, I mean, was there anything that was, out of the ordinary, anything that stood out that was
Mm.
considered a sport that you were kinda going back and forth on whether it was a sport or not? I mean, did you get, like, curling or table tennis or what did anything that you dabbled in
No,
those weird?
no, and now you bring it up, and I'm thinking there probably could have been some outskirt stuff that I could have taken more time and thought into because mine are more conventional sports, and I'm thinking now I'm like there were some times in my life that there was some, dabbling in different sports that I could have picked some impactful athletes that probably had a pretty significant impact. But I'm holding true to my five, but yeah, I'm gonna have to defend them, and you are as well. So it's gonna be good.
Right on, should we jump on in?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. I didn't do any honorable mentions. I can probably come up with a couple now that we just prefaced this whole thing. But why don't I just jump in? I'll go with number five. Then you can go back. You can hit your five, and then we'll just kind of snake draft this thing.
Awesome.
All right, number five for me. This could be polarizing, but it was Tiger Woods. All
I
right.
like it, yeah.
So number five for me was Tiger Woods. So I thought golf was the stupidest thing ever until probably I was 13 or 14. I had some other buddies that played a little bit, and I just thought it was dumb. I had no interest in it. And Tiger Woods comes on the scene, and he makes golf cool. And not that it's just cool, but he dominated the sport. And he dominated the sport with athleticism and like a pure drive and desire,
Mm.
and he just wanted it more than the competition, and he did it looking cool with a little swag. He had Nike from head to toe, and for some reason, I mean, it just and ever since that, say I was like 13, so impressionable age, I loved golf. I still love golf to this day, and so Tiger Woods, number five for me.
Yeah, maybe this is just because I don't really know the sport too well, but he was the first one that came on my radar as far as just being aware of, oh, there's a life outside of a, 40-plus-year-old golfer with a gut, because I was like, "Who's this guy?" He's a young, hip, he looks athletic, and he's again,
Yep.
he was decked head to toe in Nike, so it kinda caught my eye. I'm like, "Oh, that guy's cool," and he brought a little more swagger to it.
Yeah, and
Um,
and and he was like you just said, like he was fit. Like you wouldn't get the old fat guy shirts anymore, and at the buying golf clothes, you could actually get stuff that fit instead of like you didn't have to be
yeah, so
large to
he
fit
opened the
them.
door for a new wave of golfers, right? Because I feel like the
Yeah,
golfing community's gotten a lot younger now, at least what we're seeing on the tour now.
yeah, absolutely. And those years when he was big, I mean, he was PGA linebacker for sure, dude, and he
Mm,
was he was hitting the ball hard. So, anyway, number five, Tiger Woods for me. What about you?
solid, okay. So similar age as far as when it came on my radar. We grew up, gearheads, motorheads. Our family, we we were not bougie by any means. We were not rich by any means. My parents just made different sacrifices in different areas. So, like for instance, we grew up racing go karts. We grew up racing dirt bikes, but that wasn't because we had endless amounts of cash flow. It's because we always drove like 25-year-old cars. We
Yep.
didn't go do this and that in the weekend. It was always, just this is kind of where we decided to allocate our money. Um, so being into dirt bikes, when I was 12, 13, 14, that's when I really got into it. Dude, Jeremy McGrath, man,
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say it. That's awesome.
100%. He would have been higher on my list, except, I mean, he kind of kickstarted the really coolness of it. He was 7-time Supercross champion.
Yep.
He was riding Hondas in the early 90s. That's when he had his most success, early mid 90s.
Yep.
But again, he just kind of brought a coolness to it. And man, he was in every magazine every single year.
Yeah.
Um, had the chance of meeting him a couple times,
Oh, no
being the fact
way.
that I worked for Thor, one of the sponsors he had for a long time, Thor and Parts Unlimited. We went to a lot of the races. We went to a lot of the trade shows. We'd bump into each other, and super nice guy. We're always down to talk to anyone. He even came on a special trip up to Seattle one time. Drove hour and a half outside of Seattle to go to a specific motorcycle dealership. They of course paid him to be up there, but he doesn't have to do. He doesn't need the money to go up to a dealership on an open house weekend and shake hands and sign autographs. But
Right.
he does cool stuff like that to kind of give back to the sport, and that's what I really liked about him. He gives back to the sport. Quick embarrassing story. I did run into him at a trade show. I was in a high rise hotel. I was burned out 3 days in a row of working this trade show, eating trade show food. I'm in the hotel going up to my room real quick to take a shower, doing whatever I'm doing. I was in an empty hotel or empty elevator. I dropped a bomb on the elevator on the way up,
Oh.
and the elevator, instead of going up 13, 14 floors to my thing, it went up 2 floors and then stopped. And then who walks on the elevator? Jeremy McGrath.
And you just cropped us to the
Yeah, I
elevator.
cropped us at the king there. I doubt he'll remember that, because I mean, that's something you try to erase from your memory, of course. But that's
Yeah.
my Jeremy McGrath story.
Oh, that's awesome. Dude, he was such a stud. And you're right, like he rode Honda and then I believe he switched to Yamaha, correct? Kind of like toward the tail end of his career?
I think he's ridden almost everything,
Oh,
really.
okay.
He was on Honda. I think he's did Suzuki for a while too, which is weird because
Sure.
it really felt like he was trading
Yeah.
teams there when he went to Suzuki.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
but that, I mean, as far as impact goes, right? So I remember having like debates with my buddies in middle school and being like, no, Honda's better, and they're like, oh, Yamaha's better, like, well, why Jeremy McGrath switched and all this kind of stuff. And it's so fun to have that kind of impact on a guy that you idolize, and he's
yeah.
changing a brand and how that brand,
Well,
has impact on us. So it's
I
interesting.
remember I remember having arguments and discussions with my friends. They're like, "Well, motocross is not a sport." I'm like, "Dude, you try to hang on to
Dude,
that dirt bike, going as
right.
fast as you can, full throttle, ch- conditions that are changing every single lap. You try to do that for 20 minutes. I mean, that's kind of the average race time is about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It is damn hard. I mean, your grip is one thing, your cardio is like the first thing it goes. They say that it's as intense or more intense, and it's comparable to soccer, I guess, as far as
Yeah.
just your heart rate's elevated the whole time, and you're having to make critical decisions at speed. Dire consequences if you mess up.
Yep. Yep.
And so I still to this day will argue it's one of the most physically demanding sports in the world.
Oh yeah,
So,
dude,
number 5,
absolutely.
Jeremy McGrath.
I like it. Okay, number 4 for me is okay. So this this dude was so athletic, and he had the opportunity to be a really incredible college athlete, but then also had a really, really good pro career. But as pro careers can kind of happen, it might have dipped in the early years, and then he really became something, and position changes and things like that. But when he had his impact on me was when he was in college. And number 4 for me is Charles Woodson.
Oh, baby. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So, University of Michigan, national champions, 97. Dude was a stud. And I believe his redshirt sophomore year ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. Like, just an absolute stud. Beat my team in the Rose Bowl, but still, just an incredible dude. He had one of the most athletic moves I've ever seen at any level ever. He intercepted a ball on the sidelines against Michigan State where he used his backhand. It was like a backhand stab while he was falling out of bounds, caught it, and just tapped one toe for an interception. And it's one of the best plays I've ever seen. It's very rare. You don't see it. It's hard to YouTube. Nobody has really good copies of it, but I remember watching that live. Charles Woodson, one of the most athletic dudes ever, made me love college football. He had a return against Ohio State in the Big House, which secured the Rose Bowl bid. Like, dude was phenomenal. Made me love college football. So Charles Woodson, number 4.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Well, we're going yeah, that was going deep in there. I didn't get into football honestly till later in life, like
Mm-hmm.
admittedly probably mid-20s
Mm-hmm.
or early mid-20s, and that's just cuz we were dominated with motorsports growing up.
Sure.
And once you realize there's life outside of that, then we got fantasy football going. So that was kind of how I
Right.
dabbled into that stuff there too.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into my number 4. So when I first got
Okay.
into football, I mean, yes, I was a hometown boy. I like the Seahawks, but when you're trying to, it's polarizing to see, winning teams. It's polarizing to see winning figures. So Tom Brady stood out to me right from the get go. As soon as I turned on the TV when I was early mid 20s,
Oh yeah.
um, the reason he's on my list though is not because of his athletic abilities. He's obviously incredibly talented, but the common thing that kind of stood out with me as I'm writing my list here is attitude and work ethic.
Oh yeah.
The dude loves the game. I mean,
Yep.
absolutely loves the game. There's no reason he should be starting 21 seasons now. And then at 21, right? Yeah, 21 seasons in the
Yeah.
NFL. He's rich as can be. His kids are never gonna be able to spend all the money he made.
Yep.
Um, let alone his supermodel wife. She's got her own bank account there too.
Dude, she
But he just,
dwarfs his too.
yeah, he just loves the game, obsessed. Um, I think he's one of the people that'll admit that he's not the most talented, but he works the hardest and
Yeah.
puts in the reps.
Yep.
I was trying to research earlier today and try to figure out where this quote came from, but someone says that his schedule is like none other. Like he knows what he's doing on Tuesday, next year. Like he plans
Wow.
ahead every single thing so he can maximize things. But yeah, I just love him because he seems obsessed. Win, lose, or whatever, he's obsessed. He, is not always loved for that
Yeah.
that passion, but that really stood out to me, whether he was beating us or we were beating him.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of growing up from him as well. Like when he's first on the scene, he had
Right.
his Tomcat years, and then he really matured into that superstar, and then a good, solid human being. I don't know if you saw, but one of the like the Super Bowl interviews that I think it was Trent Dilfer's son interviews him, and he was like, who's your hero?" And Tom Brady, Mister Captain America, like breaks down crying talking about his dad. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
vaguely. Yeah,
just
I do remember that. I do remember
yeah,
that now.
just a I mean, and he's just a fiery competitor and he willed himself better. I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I love it.
Yep, elevates people around him. That was a big thing that stood out on my list. Is
Yeah.
how do you elevate people around you?
Yeah, and on the opposite side too, when someone's fun to hate, they're doing something right. You know?
Exactly.
All right. Number 3 for me is oh my gosh, this guy, Barry Sanders.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
Barry Sanders, Lions running back, Oklahoma State Heisman Trophy winner, 5'9", not even the fastest guy, not even the fastest running back in his college, not even I mean, he wasn't even that fast. But he just made people miss. He made you feel like there was something else going on. Like he was a human joystick and made guys hugging air and it just a phenomenal athlete. Good dude, great smile. He stuck with his team the entire way, even though the Lions were pretty much awful the entire time he was there. And he's just a phenomenal player. And he just and he was like, you know what, my game is not quite where it was. I'm just going to retire, and retired near his prime. He didn't just run it until the tires fell off. And just a quick little story: as when I was coaching football at Western Washington, we were in the airport in Minneapolis, and on our way home after we, probably got our butts kicked. But me and another coach we were going to be like, okay, do we go to the gate with all the other players, or we stop and get something to eat and then meet the players there? Okay, that's what we'll do. So we stopped and get something to eat, and as we're walking back to where the gate was, all of our players who are too young to even know who this dude is are like, "Hey, coach, do you know who Barry Sanders is? Because he was just right here." And I'm like, "Are you
Do you-
freaking kidding me?" So all these kids that didn't really know him got to meet him and take pictures with him, all that kind of stuff. And he of course was a good sport, wished him well, and took pictures and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't get to see it, and I was super jealous. So anyway, number 3, Barry Sanders.
yeah, man. He loved the sport. I love that infectious energy. Yeah, that's
No
good.
doubt. Okay, who's
Um,
number 3 for you?
so I'm getting my football ones out of the way right now. Number 4 and 3 are also football ones for
Okay.
me. And again, polarizing hometown boy, Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yep.
It's again because I found football again later, so I didn't grow up with it really. So I don't have a lot of the legends in my list, even though I've come to love them, but they weren't impactful for me because I didn't find out about them until, mid 20s, late 20s, whatever. So,
Yep.
um, Russell, for me, again, the commonality on my list here on a lot of these players is I love athletics. I love watching absurd talent,
Yeah.
but I always like the guy that's mediocre talent, but it's got the work ethic of just a god,
Yep.
and that's one of the guys. He puts in the reps. He is big on visioning things that he wants to come to fruition.
Yep.
Um, when I heard he was down there on the Super Bowl field, playing things out in his head, a couple years before he actually went to the Super Bowl, that was huge to me. Um,
Yeah.
Met him briefly just a few times, but just how consistent he is everywhere. Owns his mistakes,
Yep.
super positive, super open about his faith too, because I did grow up in the church and I'm very rooted in the church. And I really appreciate that someone that is open about, what they believe in and doesn't judge people for, disagreeing with them, but, just loves on people. I love attitude. I love work ethic, discipline. And that's why he's had an influence on me for number three.
Dude, that's great. That is great. Everything that you said, I can't disagree with. I have, and that's what's so great about these lists is I have my own issue with him, and it has nothing to do with all the things that you said. Like every time I have a critique or criticism of here, like of him, I seem to always preface it with like, dude, amazing dude, incredible competitor. I love just about everything about him, but and then I just get all frustrated with some of the technical stuff on football and
Oh yeah,
the way
sure,
that he
sure, sure.
quarterbacks and things like that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he's such a good leader of a team and an ambassador of the Seahawks and all that kind of stuff. And being a big Seahawks fan, I have the toughest turmoil not loving the dude. So,
Yeah, it
dude, absolutely.
it was weird for me too going through this list because it dawned on me that we were raised, as guys, we idolize things, but I was personally brought up not to idolize people
Hmm.
and not to fixate on people, but you still you have people that you're striving to be like, and you have people that you're inspired by. So it's we never idolize people growing up because we were not raised not to do that. Um, so I think that's why I'm attracted to these qualities in people rather than just, superstar talent. Because there's people on my list that would have been an honorable mention, like Randy Moss, not the best attitude, not the best team player, but just stupid, dumb talent.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Human highlight reel for sure.
And even Brady and Wilson, like their diet, is impeccable.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we didn't even talk about that, but we could
Whereas
we could
Randy
talk a
Moss,
whole yeah. Right, right, right. Yeah.
eating Red
Yeah.
Hots and Coca Cola before a game.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably a topic we could talk about Tom Brady's diet, and work ethic and just all of his stuff. Yeah. Okay. Number two for me. You ready? You ready for me for number
Yeah,
two?
man.
All right. Uh, well, it's funny because all of those things that you just said and superstar talent and all that kind of stuff. Well, number two for me is undeniable because of the timing in my life and where he was as a global star and the things that he could do on the court is definitely the most incredible competitor of all time in my mind is number two, Michael Jordan.
Number two, huh? I can't
Yeah,
wait to see your number one. Okay.
I know.
So again, this is where I really am excited to dive into the comments later and check out,
Yeah,
how our picks are being validated or argued against, because again, this has to do with impact on our life. So what
sure. So okay, so Jordan
what
number
what brought him
two,
there?
yeah, incredible competitor. He's probably, like I said, he's probably the most competitive person of all time. And I, grew up idolizing him. Everybody jumped up with their tongue out and doing the jump man and trying to dunk on little hoops when, lower than the hoop and try to dunk on it. And just, just the closer. He was the closer. And he just a professional that wanted to work harder than anybody and take your heart. I mean, he just wanted to do that. And it was basketball. And it was really the first experience for me. I think it was the championship against the Trailblazers, another relatively local team. I want to say in the early '90s. Man, I should have researched
Mm.
that a little bit better, but
It's all good.
uh, but yeah, I mean, and watching him be like, "What? I'm supposed to cheer for the local, like the Pacific Northwest team," and here he is just coming in here and dominating. And but you couldn't help but love the dude, and just a for the most part class act, and wasn't off messing around doing too much negative stuff, and just wanted to win, and all the look good doing it was all just secondary. It just kind of seemed to come naturally. So anyway, number 2, Michael
I
Jordan for me.
I'm a little behind the times. Have you gone through The Last Dance yet?
I'm 2 episodes in. I'm behind as well. And once it dropped on Netflix, I got to do that. But yeah, I'm 2 episodes in, so I can't wait to jump all over that.
Yeah, it's on our watch list too. We're behind the times. We're bad movie watchers. We're bad Netflix watchers. We just get bottled up, you know. So it's a solid number two. If I had to guess money, I would have put that as your number one. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it was tough, but number 1 is where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's a solid pick. He was iconic for me too because he's actually one of the first pro athletes that I actually remember his name. You know, I think it was like second
Right.
grade maybe. I'm like Jordan. I had a pair of Jordans in second grade.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were, and then I'm like, oh, who's this guy? Then I went over to my buddy's house, and he's got a picture on the wall of the wingspan. You know, picture.
Yep.
Um,
I still have that.
I
The
love it, man.
wings poster. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah,
I
the
love
super
that.
wide, long and wide one. Yeah,
Yep.
no, yeah, he was on my radar, and I didn't even know what for, just because his name was so big. You know, there's a couple of these names that we're throwing around here that are just they cross all kinds of thresholds here. I mean, everyone knows, and most everyone knows who Jeremy McGrath is,
Yeah.
whether they like dirt bikes or not. They've heard the name maybe.
Mhm. Mhm.
That kind of leads into my next one here, man.
Okay, let's hear it.
The name that transcends quite a bit of stuff. He's multi. Well, here's a question for you. This is why I hit you with this question in the beginning here, um, asking you what is defined as a sport. This guy's a multi-sport talent, Travis Pastrana.
Oh, yeah, okay, and as far as impact on a dirt bike rider as a kid, you bet,
Yep,
dude.
yep.
Nice.
He came onto the scene in the freestyle motocross scene. He stood out because he was a solid maybe 10 years younger than the rest of the guys doing it, who were probably in their mid 20s. I think he was probably 15 or 16 when he first came on.
If not younger.
Uh, yeah, a little younger, wily, full of energy. He attacked the freestyle. I mean, freestyle motocross basically is a couple minute competition where you got to go through a series of jumps and ramps and pull off as many tricks as you can. He was the only one that attacked the jump course like a racetrack, and that threw everyone else off. All the other competitors were like, "Why is this kid, hauling ass through these berms and then racing to the next ramp?" Well, because he was trying to get in as many tricks as he can, go as big as he can, and he was also riding an undersized bike. He was riding a 125, whereas
Oh,
most of the
yeah.
guys doing it at the time were riding 250s. So to clear the big jumps, he had to get going extra fast.
Yeah.
Um, he
Yeah, I
stood
mean,
out for
he,
me.
like, created the X Games pretty much, right?
He was right in the formative years of the X Games, and yeah, he was
Yeah.
iconic in that for a number of years. When he got back to his motocross roots racing, they were so scared of his antics off the racetrack because they're like, some of his contracts said, "Well, we're going to sponsor you to race for Suzuki for whatever." Um, but the contract said you can't do freestyle motocross because he was always getting hurt doing stuff off the track.
Yeah.
They're like, we need you healthy because we want to win a championship. And that was always the big sticking point. He's like, no, I always want to ride freestyle. He never wanted to be tied down. He was always just loving whatever he did.
Yep.
His energy, his enthusiasm for just trying new innovative stuff was really what stood out for me. And he's also someone I've met a few times too at trade shows because we sponsored him as well for a couple of the companies I used to work for.
Mhm.
Um, he, of course, has done freestyle motocross, regular motocross, supercross. I had to write a list here, to be honest with you. X Games, NASCAR,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
rally racing. He's huge into rally racing. Um, he created the Nitro Circus, which is like a
Yep.
freestyle tour that goes around. Yep, that's iconic.
It was a good show too.
Um, yeah, show as well as DVD series. And yeah, I've just got several stories with him. I've partied with him a few times, and I've been down on the Supercross racetrack field when he was out there doing some exhibition work before the race started, and just
That's awesome.
very consistent, very enthusiastic. Never caught up in controversy as far as like any kind of scandals. Never, never doing the shady stuff that can be a pitfall when you're a famous guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's always someone that was easy to put a brand name on and feel safe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Dude,
that's
that's a
number
good
two, man.
one. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, so does that count as a sport? Because I know a lot of people argue, "Well,
I
NASCAR is not a sport, motocross not a sport."
Are you telling me he's not an athlete?
Exactly, thank
I
you.
mean, there we go. So he's on the list. He had impact. He's an athlete. Absolutely.
Dude's huge, by the way, too. He's super tall.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He is tall. I remember seeing Nitro Circus, and he's like taller than all his buddies.
He puts in the work too outside of the actual sports itself to give back to the sport. He was at SEMA this year. I saw him briefly. I think he was at one of the Toyo tires or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what tire it was,
Huh.
but good
That's a good
guy.
one, man. I like it. I like it.
I am curious to see how these comments are threading up because
Yeah.
this could be a highly debated list, man.
Oh, sure. 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 We're gonna get some good emails, some bad emails. It's gonna be good. Okay.
And I'm racking my brain, man. I don't know where you're at for number one.
All right. So okay. So number one, when I was a wee lad, and say the elementary school age, this dude was incredible, and he was a local guy as well. Now he didn't grow up in that area, but he was for the local team. And my number one most impactful athlete on my life was the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., the most
Oh,
natural display of athleticism in a baseball player
solid.
ever, in my opinion, dude. He could cover ground in the outfield, make it look effortless. And at that age, that's all I wanted to do was play baseball. And I'd watch the highlights or listen to Dave Niehaus talking about the kid on the radio, and you just loved the way that he covered ground in the outfield, made defense fun as a baseball player, and then he had wheels around the bases. I mean, he could. I
Hmm.
mean, I still think about that Dave Niehaus call when Junior rounds third. I get goosebumps. And but the most impactful part was that swing. Ken Griffey Jr. had the most pure, beautiful swing that I've ever seen. And he didn't touch weights, probably maybe to a fault, and he didn't, maybe work out that way, but he stretched and he watched tape and tape and tape on his swing, and he would swing and he'd swing and he'd swing, and he spent so much time perfecting that thing, and it was just a thing of beauty. So for me, local boy growing up with Ken Griffey Jr. as from the Mariners, I mean, it was incredible. So number one for me, Ken Griffey Jr.
Was he ahead of Jordan for you just because he's a local boy, or what made him above as far as the impact he had on your life? What made him above Jordan?
Great question, but I would say that everything had to do with the fact that I could go see him. I saw Jordan one time
Ah, he's
in the
tangible.
Kingdome, but
Yeah, he's
yeah,
tangible.
you could see him. I mean, I remember sitting in the outfield and yelling at his name, and maybe he waved, maybe he didn't, whatever. Or and being in the park when he hit a home run, and like that's I mean that was my family. It's like outing. We'd go to maybe 4 baseball games a year, sit on sit in the cheap seats and just have a good time with popcorn and a hot dog and watching Ken Griffey Jr. And then my dad and I would listen to the games on the radio and driving home from work or whatever. He'd pick me up from a friend's house and we'd listen to the games, or we'd get home and it'd be a good game and we got to turn on the radio and we'd be listening to it. And okay, wait, mom, I don't want to go to bed. There's just one more inning, just one more inning. I just and Jordan was great. Jordan was phenomenal. But the NBA from an out of market, like I'd either have to watch it on Sports Center, which was phenomenal, or I'd buy the Jordan tapes. And
Mm,
and
yep.
I didn't care so much about regular season basketball. It was like the playoffs and the finals and stuff like that. That's when I'd actually see Jordan.
Mm.
But like Griffey was every day. So
That great answer to a simple question there, because baseball is one of those things, that I used to use as my example. Anytime someone said, "Well, motocross is not a sport," I'm like, "Bro, hold on." We didn't have Google at the time, but I'd always like, Yahoo search or whatever, fattest baseball players. And I'd be like,
yeah.
this guy's more athletic than this guy. And, I'd always use that as my example.
Yep.
Not to say I don't like baseball, but yeah, baseball didn't come onto my radar till later in life. That's why I didn't have any baseball players on my
Yep.
list there as athletes. But Dude, I love going to games, man. When was the last time you went to a game, by the way?
Well, in Florida, I used to go quite a bit,
Okay.
but I went this last year. I had a friend buy me a birthday present, and we went on, I think on the 4th of July or something like that. No, a couple days after the 4th of July. Last year, went to a Mariners game.
Mm,
It was awesome.
it's good stuff. Well,
Okay,
buddy,
dude. Yeah, you're
I
killing me here.
I didn't see that coming. You're probably not going to see mine coming here either. So mine's another my number one pick is another multi-sport athlete.
Okay.
Again, someone who didn't really have a phenomenal career in really either of them,
Okay.
but work ethic, attitude, positive energy, infectious energy, um, bettering the people around him. That's what made this individual have an impact in my life to the point where I put him number one, Mr. Brendan Schaub.
Really?
Yes, sir. Well, it was a late comer to my list, but it dawned on me this person that was in my ear, via podcast, in my house on a daily, almost a weekly basis during some of my loneliest times,
Mm-hmm.
in between, meeting Jane,
Mm-hmm.
I would always have podcasts on, always have, YouTube going and hearing about this guy's story from, playing football, having a decent college career, then trying to make it into the NFL and then that not working out. And then, studying jujitsu and boxing and getting into the ultimate fighter, and then making it in the UFC and having I think he had a 10-5 career in the UFC. And then, that I was there when, essentially Joe Rogan talked him out of fighting anymore.
Yeah.
And at that point, he'd already started his podcast with Brian Callen, and those guys were, podcasting once, twice a week. They were always on. It was to the point where, I needed to hear background noise all the time. So I'd always just repeat some of the same podcasts because it was at a time in my life too when I found these guys that all my friends were either getting married or on their first marriage, having kids. So a lot of my single friends that I was hoping to bounce back onto when I got out of my last relationship, they weren't around. So like I surrounded myself with these guys, and I've watched Brendan Schaub go from, broke fighter, career done, he's essentially the same age as I am, to
Yeah.
see him start a podcast with his buddy, learn how to make a living just talking about dick jokes and whatnot.
Right.
And then to watch him flourish into a stand-up comedy career with a special out, and then seeing how he's hustling, building companies around things that he enjoys, CBD, coffee, everything, biking.
Yeah.
Um, what stood out to me is he took his athletic focus, discipline, and drive and brought it into everything outside of athletics. So when he was
Yeah.
podcasting, he went 100%. He dedicated himself to it. When he was starting his businesses, same thing. When he was starting stand up comedy, he rocketed ahead of a lot of stand-ups that had been doing it years longer than him, just because he committed to writing jokes,
Huh.
a couple hours a day. He committed to going on the road doing 2-3 shows a night, trying to get better and better. And so that athletic mentality and that camaraderie of building people up around you, he's always one of those guys, collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
um yeah, man, that's my
Is
number one. Are you
dude,
familiar with him at all?
not is I mean, I knew about his MMA career, but it was only after you connected the dots there. Is he Matt Schaub's brother? Matt Schaub, the
No,
quarterback?
no,
No?
no, no, he's not. He does have another brother, but his brother's not into athletics. They're from Colorado.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Wow.
he
That's a really good one, dude. I love and the why is great. The why
the
was
yeah, the
really,
why
really
is what
good.
put him there
Yeah.
because
Dude.
massive
Well
impact in my
done.
life, massive impact in my life.
Yeah. Well, good, dude. Well, did you think this was a good exercise? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I got chills putting together this list because I'm like, well, because Schaub was kind of a late one because now he's not involved in athletics anymore, but it gave me chills as I was putting it together. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
this guy's the reason why I'm sitting here with a microphone, half an inch from my face. This guy's the reason why I, was driven to strive for bigger things as far as
Right.
starting businesses and moving and just hearing about how positivity and just positive self-talk and building people up around you and surrounding yourself with good people, what it does for your life in any aspect. So
Yeah. Well,
that was huge for me for number one.
yeah, and I mean, impact on people happens in
Mm,
different ways. So the fact that that was uh, so impactful to you and to the point where it was number one, obviously it needs to be up there. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Well,
solid.
good, dude. Hey, that was a fun list. I really enjoyed that. That was sweet. I enjoyed putting it together. It was fun listening to your list. All right. So what do we have? We have a couple topics. Got a couple
Yeah, man.
minutes left. Let's hammer these out. I want you to go first. You tell me about your topic.
For sure. No, so this it kind of stems into my number one there is mid to late 20s when I was going through a single spell there. This needing for community, this needing for camaraderie, some bros around me.
Mhm.
The fact that all my friends were either getting married or out having kids or just building their own life, I'd have to restart making friends. And so making friends as an adult is quite a bit different. It was quite the journey. Um, because for a while there, I was just simply surrounded by the people I was listening to on podcasts and
Yep.
surrounded by people I was listening to on YouTube. But that only gets you so far. You actually need in person, human to human connection there to really thrive, and that's what we crave as humans.
No doubt.
Um,
No doubt.
so man, making friends as an adult is different, man. It's quite a bit different because a lot of times you're with your significant other and they might be friends and you're brought along as kind of the third wheel there, and you're supposed to meet some dude, connect with some dude equally as good as your significant other does with her,
Yeah.
and the chances of that working out are never that good. I mean, I can't tell you how many mindless conversations about stuff I don't even care about I've been stuck in. When you've been talking about the weather for 10 minutes with some dude that you have nothing in common with, I'm like, man alive.
Right, and you have to cut through all that stuff too, and you might have more in common, but you're having to play this game of like, you know, exactly right, right? You have four personalities that are kind of forced to kind of mesh, and what happens if one of them doesn't? Like that's just yeah, that's tough. That's a good point.
And as I get older too, my what I'm looking for in friends has changed quite a bit too, and it made me realize that I've got a couple good boys around me still, but I really value friends that aren't afraid to pull you aside and have an honest conversation with you. And I didn't have that when I was younger, and I've got that now in you and in one other guy. But friends that you can reconnect with, they can pull you aside and be like, "Yeah, dude, are you doing all right? I don't think you're doing too good." Or friends that are pulling you aside and say, "Bro, I think you're up about 30 pounds, man. What's going on here? Are you okay? You're not eating right. You're not working out. What's going on?" That's a
Right.
friend. A friend isn't a yes man. A friend is someone that can pull you aside and be able to call you out on your own stuff if you need to,
Yeah.
and do so without feeling like they're going to chop your head off and feel like they're going to jeopardize your friendship.
Totally agree.
Do
Totally
you?
agree.
Because I grew up with friends. I'm not sure if you can relate to this, but I grew up with friends, but not friends that would call me out on my own stuff, or not friends that I could feel comfortable calling them out on their own stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting because friends have always been a really important thing to me, and usually not necessarily the volume, but the quality and like the nucleus of that friendship is super important to me. And I was blessed with a phenomenal family, but my brother was 10 years older than me, and so
Mm,
like I
yep.
constantly was like searching for that. Like I need that like that brother that and so in you and a couple other guys, I have that close knit relationship that will be friends forever with regardless of what's going on and be like, dude, check yourself on this. And by all means, check me when I need it. And that stuff is so valuable. But to your point, sometimes you have distances that's the problem. You have maybe these spouses don't get along, or the fact that we're 3 states away, we never get to see each other, but that quick phone call or stuff like that. So it's hard to make the friends as an adult. It's also difficult to maintain those really really good friendships as we grow up and get married and have kids and all that kind of stuff as well.
Mm. Yeah, and coming from someone who grew up primarily as an introvert and finally realizing that I need people in my life, it's been a change. it was an eye opener when I realized, the importance of community and the importance of having these relationships, because it's easy to rely on your significant other as your primary source of
Yep.
friendship and laughter. But no, it's very important, man, to get out and have your guy time and have your guy laughs. And again, falling back to the podcast, man, that's why I've listened to these guys just shuck and jive and just have fun, and just they weren't even talking about anything specific, but just kind of how
Yeah.
they would get along. I'm
Yep.
like, man, I want that. I'd never seen that. I want that. It wasn't anything special, but it was just two guys hanging out, just talking about whatever, making each other laugh. That's the biggest thing too, man. Just making each other laugh and
Dude, it's so
laughing at our
important.
failures, laughing at our successes, laughing at if we get too big headed or if we
Yeah.
totally failed on something. That's what I'm looking for, and that's what I really saw value in. And that's why we're buds, man.
Yeah, dude, it's so important just to be able to. Yeah, if I scroll through my phone and I'm like, dude, I haven't talked to this guy in a couple of days. I better throw him a text. I haven't talked to this guy. I better, give him a call. That kind of stuff. That's good.
It
I like that.
it's it dawned on me too there as I was thinking about the topic for the day. And when you bring a group of people together at a wedding, yes,
Mm.
it's because it's your crew. You want them there to help celebrate, but it's also an accountability crew to help nourish a healthy marriage. It's your community around you. It's the people you go to when you're having trouble, or you should go to when you're having trouble.
Yep.
Um, and the fact that we both are on a very similar trajectory on that path, I think that's invaluable, man.
Yep.
So I'm sitting here confessing my love for you on the podcast here.
Oh, that's good. I
Uh,
love it. That's awesome.
so that was
No,
on my
that's
mind.
good.
That was on my mind this week.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. And to throw another wrinkle into that too. I mean, think about, here we are, two dudes that are married and have relocated, us to LA, you to Las Vegas, and what now? Got to establish new relationships and networks and all that kind of stuff as well. And some of that is you get some really solid roots in, and some of it's just surface level, and that's okay too. But yeah, it's a good topic, dude. I like it. Well done, man.
Sentimental.
Yeah,
What do you got
man.
for us, Mr. Adam?
All right. Okay. So this comes because of what happened to me yesterday, and I alluded to a little bit earlier about what we've been up to. Well, the wife and I went to one of her friends' house, and we had the opportunity to jump on a jet ski.
Ah,
So it's been 15 years since I've been on a jet ski.
come on, Florida boy.
And
What
right, boy,
what
dude.
lake? Where are you guys at?
All right, so we were on Lake Sammamish, and it was a pretty nice jet ski. I'm a little bit out of the game, so I can't really brand drop and that kind of thing. But uh, it was very nice, and so the wife can't swim. Okay, so first and foremost, wife can't swim, but we got life jackets on and that kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, you guys want to take out the jet ski? And I'm like, yeah, we've been talking about that. It's one of those things that the wife and I have been talking about. Let's get her on a jet ski. That'd be fun. And, she loves ATVing, and, she jumps on the motorcycle with me. And I grew up riding motorcycles. I ride a street bike now, and, get double up on her with her on there, and we're all good. We'll, put on a couple hundred miles, and it's fun. I know my way around a motorcycle, and I can drive a boat a little bit. I can wakeboard a little bit, and that kind of thing. So being out on the water is not a huge deal. And so they asked me, have you, are you know how to jet ski? And I'm like, yeah, I know how to jet ski. It's all good. Okay, cool. And so we get on there, and they give me a little, okay, yeah, this is throttle, this is this is reverse. You need to whatever. Okay, cool. And we
This,
get
this
on
is a
there.
friend. This is a friend's jet ski or
Yeah,
rental?
it was a friend's jet ski.
Okay, okay.
And so we're out there, and now keep in mind, when we're riding double up on a jet ski, I haven't been on one in 15 years, and my wife can't swim. So throttle wise, I am just gingering it, right? And
You're
it's
such a
on.
good man. You're
Oh,
such a
dude,
good man.
and it's Lake Sammamish, and waves are dominating us, and I'm going, and I'm having a tough time turning. I'm like super tense, like when you first ride a dirt bike or any motorcycle, and you're kind of nervous and stuff, and you're just clenching up, and you're squeezing so hard to prevent it from doing anything wrong. Well, I'm doing the same thing. Like, I'm so tense that I can't get the thing to freaking turn the way that I want. And so I eventually get it back to there, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm not. It's not responsive. I'm not doing this right. And he's like, yeah, well, try to, go a little bit faster. And I'm like, all right, but when you're jet skiing and there's a pretty significant wake and you're going below 20 miles an hour, you're really getting dominated by the waves,
Yeah, man,
and
you gotta get on top of that thing.
you're not getting any steering done. So I start to hammer down a little bit. We're going 25 or so, and then it's super responsive, and I'm getting the way that I want to do. I'm turning, I'm riding, and I'm enjoying it, and all that kind of stuff. We're bouncing up and down and stuff, but
Are you still married?
yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm beat because I spent the whole time being just a nervous wreck and tense and all that kind of stuff. And I get her back to the dock, and she jumps off, and she's like, why don't you go take it? I'm like, I'm tired too. It's all good. And then they're like, you know what? Why don't you go enjoy it and try it? So then I go, and I'm ripping and roaring and having a freaking blast. I mean, I was going crazy fast, but it was a pretty decent chop, and I'm up on top of them going, I think 47 was the top I saw, but with a chop, like it was everything I needed. And diving into turns a little bit, and I'm not crazy good at anything, and it's been a while since I've been on a jet ski, but that tentativeness, it all went away when I threw a little bit more aggression at it. I was like, oh, I want to turn. I'm going to turn. And I just did it versus being like worried about toppling over. My wife can't swim, all that kind of stuff. And so my topic, this whole silly story was basically about the fact that we relaxing in tough situations is so important. I got back to the dock and my hands, like you could pry the fingernails out of my hands, and my shoulders were so tense and my legs were so tense, and I was having such a tough time because I was so tense. And it always seems like the recipe for success in those situations is being a little bit more relaxed, letting your body kind of be the shock absorber. And that's what was so cool about the list that we did, was all the guys that on my list are guys that make it look so easy, and that they're so comfortable and relaxed when they're doing something extremely difficult. And it comes from that
Mm.
preparation and that
Mhm.
practice, and doing it over and over and over, and becoming really good at it so that they can feel relaxed, because that's when you're at your best, is when you're relaxed in those moments. So anyway.
Yeah, being relaxed, but then also committing too, because it's come across my situation a couple times where I, I've taken a couple years off motorcycles. I've now taken probably 5 years off riding a dirt bike, and the couple times I've done those blocks of time off, and I try to get back on the dirt bike, the times that I get hurt are the times where I'm tensed up and not committing to ride the bike.
Yep.
It's where I'm trying to play it safe, trying to tiptoe around the track, trying to do this and that. And yeah, those are the times I get hurt, and those are the times that stick within your head. You're like, dang, why don't you know? But as soon as you commit to hitting that corner, hitting that jump, or just
Yeah.
riding it, more than half throttle, that's when you're more safe. But yeah, there's it's hard to
Yeah.
snap into that groove there, especially with your situation where you got your new wife on the back, you're on a borrowed
Well,
jet ski.
yeah, there's certain things where I don't want to ruin this thing. I don't want to hurt her. I want her to make sure that she stays on, all that kind of stuff.
She didn't go
But
flying off though, right?
no, she didn't.
Okay.
But if I would just know that, hey, you know what, I'm pretty good on motorsports. Why don't I just trust myself? And she trusts me, so why don't I trust myself? Like just get into it, commit to it, be relaxed under the situation, breathe a little bit, and go for it.
Yeah, we also had our first experience on a jet ski together as a couple last year.
Mhm.
We had some time to kill for a gig we were doing in Wenatchee, and I'm like, well, why don't we just drive up to Chelan and spend the afternoon in Chelan? And I had the whole 2-hour drive over there to figure out, all right, am I going to rent one jet ski or two jet skis? Because she's never been on one and she's not a motorsports person.
Right.
But having known her attitude and known her tenacity, the decision was made to get two.
Yeah.
Um, Now, granted, I don't think she ever got above 3/4 throttle.
Sure.
It still was a way better situation because then I was able to rip around, do a little bit of my situation.
Yeah.
But I spent most of the time as cute coaching her and helping her out. But
Was there any
yeah, dude,
chop there?
Chelan gets pretty choppy there.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the funny thing too, is that the last time I went was like 4th of July. I went in college, so I might
Mm,
have also been a little bit more carefree and dumb, and I didn't have somebody on the back, and it was my buddy's dad rented a really high end one where where you switch it over. You go like you got putt putt speed, and then you switch it over, and then
mhm,
you got like super speed, and it was on American Lake in the Lakewood Tacoma area, and it was just like glass out there, and so you could just hold it wide open and then just dump it into a turn, and it would switch on a dime, and you'd be going back 180 the other way. And so my experience before might have been a little bit easier, given a little bit more false sense of hope and all that kind of stuff, and maybe inflated my skill set too. So,
well, that's pretty fun, man. So, speaking of jet skis, that kinda leads into our topic for next week, our list for next week.
hmm
Um, we were putting our heads together, and we wanted to figure out if we had a garage, a 5
hmm
stall garage,
yep, five
5 bank
stalls.
garage,
Yep.
endless budget. What are we filling it with, man? What do we put in there? We kinda drew out the parameters. You can kinda correct me
hmm
if I'm going off track here, but we drew out the parameters. It could be anything four-wheeled, two-wheeled, water sports, motorsports, anything like that. Anything that's a big
Yeah.
boy toy.
A big boy toy in the dream garage.
Mhm.
What's filling out your slots in the garage? And taking into consideration now, it's great we don't have a budget in this situation, which is phenomenal, but you also have to live your life in it. So we need some practical answers, but then also some
Yeah,
big boy toys.
it's not, practical to go run and get groceries in the Bugatti, or maybe it is.
Exactly. Well, or maybe it is, right. Yeah, but you gotta pick somebody up at the airport, and there's 4 of you. You guys are gonna go have a blast. What are you gonna pick them up in? They're not gonna jump on the back of the YZ250 either.
Well, that's gonna be a fun one to put together. So we got no budget, but we only got 5 stalls to put in there.
Yeah, yeah, your dream garage in 5 stalls, and you gotta live your life too.
Got it. So I need a grocery runner, I need a weekend warrior. Okay. All right, man.
Mhm.
Well, I'll put
Yeah,
my
man.
heads together, and we're back here again next week.
Yeah, man. I will be, remoting in again next week as well, and
Okay.
then hopefully we'll be back in LA, and, we'll be going forward.
So we'll put our heads together. You guys do the same thing. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we did on the top 5 athletes, and drop a couple of your own favorites in the comments there too, and let us know what the impact was they had in your life. And then prepare your list, man. We want to go to battle on this big boy toy list here. Let us know, prep your list so we can have a dialogue next week about what's in your garage.
Oh, I love it, dude. Dream Garage next week. I love it, dude. All right, PowerFall project, brother.
I love it, buddy. Another one in the books.
That's right.
Have yourself a good rest of the trip there, and I'll talk to you in a couple days.
All right, brother. Later.